Alright, let's talk about it. Everybody knows the way that this game is balanced if they've been paying attention. If everybody is absolutely busted, nothing is particularly overpowered, and that's worked for a while. But as it would turn out, we were kind of wrong with our initial assumptions. You see, it appears that when everything is busted, strategists get the biggest piece of the pie. Why is this? Well, at the end of the day, the strategist is the most important part of the team. That's not meant to undermine other positions, it's just a fact. They have the most impact on the match. Nobody else has the ability to maintain both themselves and others without outside interference. Think about it. You can get away with no tank, you can get away with no damage, you cannot get away with no support. Let's also take a look at what most forms of support are at a fundamental level. It's a competition of keeping people alive. This means when they get too strong, nobody is gonna die. And now we can address why this may be an issue, and I personally don't think this is a game-breaking sort of deal, but it's still an issue and it can snowball pretty quickly. When you make the support units of a game like this too strong, it necessitates a few things, because, as I said, no more dying. Firstly, burst damage, not standard burst damage, heavy burst damage. These are the one-shot or nearly one-shot characters that we were all pretty on board with despising. Anything else and the overwhelming amount of healing simply outpaces the incoming damage. Now, a lot of you don't know about this because it was before your time, but there was this little indie game called Overwatch back in the day. Overwatch was a hero shooter that saw rise to a rather problematic playstyle in its tenure. This playstyle was called GOATS. It stood for Go All Tanks and Supports. I know the acronym doesn't match up, just go with it. We weren't exactly scholars. Remember what I just said about requiring high burst damage? Well, that only applies to squishy targets, and with a tank, if supports can see them, they won't die. So they decided the optimal way to do this was just go 3 tank, 3 support, and the game became incomprehensibly fucking boring. With Rivals, simply by virtue of character design, it would be a little different, but there would still be a big snowball effect here. You see, tanks would never die, but they don't produce enough burst damage to targets like a damage-based character would, so it very quickly becomes support ultimate farming simulator. If you have been playing triple support, you already feel this quite a bit. GOATS was actually one of the primary reasons that Overwatch introduced role queue, and I asked a question not too long ago because I kind of was going to make this video in the back of my mind, and the overwhelming consensus was that we don't want that in Rivals. So something needs to be done in order to rein in this problem before everybody else catches on and this just becomes the standard playstyle, this being GOATS. What are some solutions? Well, don't worry, I've got you covered with a few. The obvious change here is we tune down support units. Now, you don't have to get egregious, and not all of them need changes. As a matter of fact, the way Mantis is right now, I think is a pretty perfect example of an all-around great support. She's not dropping insane burst healing. She makes up for what she lacks there in her utility. Her ultimate is strong, but it doesn't last ages, and she's got a protective ability on a fair cooldown. Now, this wouldn't completely fix the issue, it's not the end-all be-all, because things will evolve and change, but a good band-aid for the time being would be a slower ultimate charge for supports, more specifically the Big Four. I'll get into that in a moment. It would provide more than enough time to figure out an actual solution, or just play it out and see how things go. The fight-stopping ultimates from the Big Four, that would be Luna, Cloak, Invisible Woman, and technically Loki, are what's currently forcing a lot of stagnation in games. At a certain point, the game begins to revolve almost entirely around that metric being support ultimates, the big support ultimates, the fight stoppers, if you will. Supports are in a pretty good place without dumping an ultimate every minute, though. They can totally afford the knock. They will be fine. I've also seen some rise in the suggestion of an anti-heal being introduced. Now, I'm not too on board with that. I've seen it get rough pretty quick in the past. If it isn't an incredibly precise skill on a sizable cooldown, you've just made another one-shot character, except it's worse because they can apply it to tanks as well. The only way I see that working is tying it to an ultimate instead, and if you do that, you can even go as far as making it splash damage. Another thing you don't want to do is start tweaking other characters in accordance to the root problem of supports being strong. We've seen this in other places. Sometimes we will see compensation by making tanks stronger to secure kills better. This makes damage players effectively useless, and in other cases we've seen games boost their damage characters so that nearly everything is a one-shot. Then, because they're afraid of the community's reaction to nerfs, they boost everybody's health, and of course that results in the same problem that we began with. Another resolution would be more large burst damage ultimates, but that would mean several new characters, several reworks, so it's not really a feasible option yet. We'll pack that up and put it away for later. At the end of the day, I think that we can all agree the attrition of gameplay is not good. Nobody wants to stand in the same spot healing or getting all of their damage out-healed until a Luna can say that she's got an ultimate. Strong supports are good, don't mistake that for a second, but this gridlock support methodology is bad for player engagement and creativity. I think we need to change our philosophy on what strategist means fundamentally, but this is going to be kind of damaging to the casual player base. You see, healing is great, and there should be some designated healing-centric strategists. However, a utility-focused support is plainly better for more diverse gameplay. As of right now, Mantis is really the only one who doesn't get her primary value out of healing. I think that number should increase, especially with Ultron likely coming next season. I've said my piece on the matter for now. Tell me how you feel that this issue should be resolved, or if it's even an issue outside of higher ranks, or if you care about it getting resolved. I'm going to be crashing out for the rest of the video. It is not related to rivals at all. If you want to maintain whatever idealistic opinion you have of me, go to the door now. I'm about to get incredibly aggressive. The rest of this video footage is from Ghost Recon Wildlands, a game in which you fight the cartel. I found it thematically appropriate given recent events and what I'm about to discuss. This is not going to be a normal case, this is not going to happen often, this is not the way this channel is going to sway. Don't get used to it is what I'm saying, but we're going to talk about American politics today. Why? Well, quite frankly because I'm frustrated and also never let a good rant go to waste. You see, I was scrolling through social media, and I only do that like once a month, but I saw some wild shit as I was going through, and if I can knock the sense into at least one person, that's enough for me. If you dislike or hate me after this, that's fine, just know that you're not original, and I don't know, you should probably find a fucking hobby. I'll be firing shots at just about everyone this go around, so without further ado, why the fuck is it that everywhere you look, there's the equivalent of dueling banjos, but it's just two dipshits arguing about nothing, and it's the same ones every time. It'll be some preppy dork who looks like he gets his hair cut with a spoon, and some androgynous thing that looks like it was dredged out of Bikini Bottom. It's one side who confidently knows nothing arguing with the other who thinks they know everything. As a society, I feel that we should find common ground in detesting both of these insufferable fucks, and I've got a feeling that the silent majority might be with me on this one, or, maybe it's silent minority at this point. It's really hard to tell with that silence. You guys are difficult to gauge. Anyway, people are losing their shit. Main example, this time around at least, is everybody calling Elon Musk a Nazi for a gesture he half-assedly made at a rally. Now, I think they're wrong. Don't get me incorrect here. He's totally a grossly irresponsible, socially awkward dipshit who can't stop lying about himself because he sees life as a popularity contest that he's losing. That's true, and it's probably because he has no fucking friends. Why would you be, right? And it's also true that he is easily manipulated and throws temper tantrums constantly, which could have very dangerous ramifications in the future. But he's probably not a Nazi. Attention-starved man who employed geniuses and takes credit for their successes? Yes, absolutely. That's well documented, but a Nazi? I don't think so. And I think it's bad practice to water down the vitriolic hatred summoned with that term. If there is ever a resurgence and it gets called out, the word will have lost its value. You wasted its meaning by flippantly applying it to some uncoordinated fuck who is shaped like melted butter and everyone else that you disagreed with. It's a dangerous game to play, and one that, quite frankly, I don't think is worth playing. However, if you are somebody defending this man for punching out that salute, whether it was intentional or not, reassess your shit. Not only is that a grown-ass adult human being responsible for his own actions, he is one of the most powerful people in the free world. When you have that type of influence, and you actively seek to step out into the public, you undertake a responsibility. that responsibility is to carry yourself in a way that is indicative of who you want society to recognize you as. You need to pay attention to everything you do, absent-minded gestures and all, because you're responsible for all of the consequences incurred. Now, I find it more than reasonable to be upset with who he is as a human being, but we already had a word for that. It's dipshit. He is a dipshit. It's as simple as that. It does not need to be more complicated than this flailing fucking moron swinging his body around. However, he should absolutely be chastised for the dumb shit that he did. By the way, if you genuinely think that we've become anything akin to 1940s Germany, you are wrong, and I find your exaggeration disrespectful to the millions of people who suffered under that regime. Fuck you for that. But fine, go consult your patron Saint Luigi and do the Lord's work if you're really gonna be about that life. It has always been incredibly American to overthrow the government anyway, and don't be some kind of limp dick fuckstick who just gets frustrated and goes shoots up a school with all your limp dick anger. If you even consider doing that, you should go ahead and make your KD 0-1 using a bedsheet, an exposed ceiling joist, and a folding chair. I'm sure you can put those puzzle pieces together. This is getting a little too close to the line. I'm not saying be a terrorist or a revolutionary, but if you want to see change in the world, do something about it or shut the fuck up. And to those of you that would call this hypocritical, bitch, I'm raising awareness and informing normal people that they aren't the only ones questioning everybody's sanity. Oh fuck, that wasn't a good recovery. There goes monetization, I guess. Look, I'm just incredibly concerned, boys and girls. We have a crisis consisting of so many young adults filled with rage and uncertainty, and it seems to be reaching ahead. It's like we're smoking cigarettes next to the gas tank, and they no longer have the outlet now that folks aren't buying into the whole military-industrial complex thing. Sorry, but war seems a whole lot less glorious when we get to see the real-life repercussions of it on Instagram. Now, we could have fixed this earlier. We could have fixed it fucking ages ago. Maybe we could have treated veterans like people and not paper towels to throw away after we were done using them. And maybe we can still address the mental health crisis that has left this country screaming in agony for decades. Or, nah, I'm just kidding. What we need is another fucking iPhone. Because why would we ever try to improve when we can just argue about it on Twitter? Alright. That's all my current rage fired indiscriminately towards you, so join the Discord in the description if you want. Have a good night.